Srimad Ayyappa Gita. Om Saranam Ayyappa. Chapter 1, Ayyappa Yoga. Translation. We bow to Ayyappa, the son of Hari and Hara, whose glory is proclaimed by the sacred word Ai, who with compassion rescues gods and humans, who bow to him from the ocean of sorrow, and who removes the multitude of fears of all beings, bringing happiness to his devotees. His body shines with knowledge and beauty. Just as living beings cannot live without life itself in the three worlds, therefore I bow to Ayyappa, the protector of life. Long ago, through the divine energy of Siva and the enchantress Mohini, the form of Vishnu, Ayyappa was born for the protection of Dharma. Established firmly in the inner self, showing the sacred gesture of consciousness, Chinmudra, clothed in the attire of accomplished yogis, calm in form, purifying devotees with the dust of his feet in the sacred city of Varanasi, Ayyappa, the son of Kesava and Isa, Vishnu and Siva, shines as Dharmasastha. Once there was a king named Pantala, who ruled in Kerala, devoted to protecting his people and beloved by devotees. One day, while hunting in a great forest, the king saw a divine child and was filled with delight. The child shone like pure crystal, with eyes extending to the ears and a face radiant like the gentle moon, a form created by divine illusion. Peaceful in appearance, the child lay near the Lord of Rivers like the Supreme Lord, resting at the time of cosmic dissolution, resembling lotus-eyed Vishnu adorned with golden ornaments. The king took the divine child to his palace and raised him with great affection. The boy grew gradually like the waxing moon. Seeing the child's playful nature, everyone was pleased. However, a foolish minister became envious. By the grace of Ayyappa, the previously childless queen also bore a son. The wicked minister spoke secret and harmful words to the queen, like Manthara did to Kaikeyi. He said, "The king plans to crown Ayyappa as crown prince, for he is virtuous and heroic. O queen, when your own son exists, how can another son rule the kingdom? You must obstruct the coronation, otherwise your son will become a servant of Ayyappa. I will tell you a plan. Tell the king you suffer terrible abdominal pain. I will gather false physicians who will prescribe tiger's milk as medicine. I will inform the king that tiger's milk is required to cure the queen. In this way Ayyappa will perish when he goes to the forest to obtain it." Believing this harmful advice to be beneficial, the queen deceived the king. Pretending to suffer severe pain, she told the king that tiger's milk alone could cure her. The king ordered his soldiers to fetch tiger's milk and warned that if they failed within 8 days they would face death. The soldiers became afraid. Seeing this, Ayyappa said, "Remain peacefully in your homes. I alone will go and bring tiger's milk for the king." Ayyappa, the ornament of the brave and the protector of Dharma, moved by compassion, went toward the forest. Reaching the forest, he blew his conch. Hearing the sound, fierce tigers gathered around him. Just as Krishna in Vrindavana was surrounded by cows, and Lakshmi by bees around a lotus, so Ayyappa was surrounded by countless wild animals. Like a yogi who controls the senses, Ayyappa subdued both beasts and elephants, and returned to Pantala. The city of Pantala became surrounded by wild tigers. Seeing this astonishing sight, the king, queen and ministers were stunned. Seeing the frightened citizens, Ayyappa compassionately departed again to the peak of the Sahya mountains, where he remains in meditation even today. Sage Narada came to the city of King Rajasekhara and narrated the divine story of Siva's son. Ganesha, Kartikeya and Ayyappa, the son of Mohini, are the three sons of Siva, equal to their father in valor. He explained that Ayyappa had accepted service in human form. He had incarnated to end the quarrel between devotees of Hari and Sankara. O king, abandon the idea that Ayyappa is merely human and recognize his divinity. Hearing this, the king realized Ayyappa's greatness and sought his vision. Grieving over Ayyappa's departure, the king renounced food and water. Ayyappa appeared and said, "Do not grieve, I dwell on Sabari mountain. Perform a sacred sacrifice and build my temple there. Install a beautiful idol made of 5 metals. My presence will surely dwell there. Every year in the month of Magha you must celebrate a great festival. All who come to that festival will attain happiness. Offer coconuts, camphor, flowers, lamps and sacred drinks in worship. I will be especially pleased with ritual bathing in ghee and milk. Rules of purity and discipline are prescribed for those who enter my presence. My sight grants merit, especially during the month of Magha. After saying this, the Lord disappeared. The king built the temple as instructed, and sages, gods and celestial beings came to behold ayyappa. Thus ends Chapter 1, Ayyappa Yoga. Chapter 2, Sastrat Yoga, Translation. In the house of a hunter was born a fortunate woman named Sabari. With a desire for liberation, she performed austerities in the Sahya mountains. She was virtuous, beautiful, gentle in speech, cheerful and devoted to her guru. Just as bees become intoxicated with flower nectar, she became intoxicated with devotion. Like Vachaknavi questioning Yajnavalkya in ancient times, she approached Ayyappa, seeking refuge from the fear of birth and death. After worshipping him with flowers while he sat on a pure seat, she asked about the meaning of the self. Ayyappa said, "The self is called the individual soul, the Lord, the doer and the knower of the field. It also appears as the waking self Visva, dream self Taijasa, and deep sleep self Prajna. The self is never born nor does it die. It shines pure within the body, a mass of consciousness, ancient, like space, unchanging and immeasurable. Without instruments, it knows the three states, waking, dream and deep sleep. When one says, 'I do not know,' knowledge itself shines. Even when one says, 'I know,' knowledge alone is expressed. The stream of consciousness is unbroken, it neither rises nor sets. Reflect that this alone is the self. Just as butter exists in milk and oil in sesame seeds, and fragrance in flowers, so the self resides in the body. It is eternal, all-pervading, infinite and unchanging. In the waking state it is called Visva, in the dream state Taijasa, and in deep sleep Prajna. Through gross, subtle and blissful experience these three states appear. Those who say I am the doer identify with the body and are called individual souls. I am Krishna, I am Siva, I am the eternal witness and knower of the field. I am Ayyappa, infinite, self-delighting and imperishable. Beyond nature, I am the true meaning of the word Tao. I am existence, consciousness, bliss, the self of the universe. Thus ends Chapter 2, Sastrat Yoga of Srimad Ayyappa Gita. Chapter 3, Adhyatma Yoga, Spiritual Knowledge. Sri Sabari said, "In worldly dealings, people always use the words you and I, indicating difference. O Yogi, how then can non-duality between these two be understood?" Sri Ayyappa said, "When one says I and you, duality appears. But when one says he am I soham, non-duality is taught. Siva himself becomes the worshipper, and Siva himself worships Siva. Who other than Siva could be the doer, and how could Siva perform any action separately? One who contemplates non-duality, is devoted to the Supreme Lord, rejects duality, is detached from worldly objects, and has the strength to control the mind. Only such a person attains liberation. Through the teaching of the Mandukya Upanishad, the self is realized. All duality is like the blueness of the sky, only an appearance. Knowing the self as the support of all, beyond speech and mind, unmanifest, without attributes, and true, the wise do not grieve. Just as clouds disappear by rain and hunger disappears by eating, so duality disappears through knowledge like the illusions of a dream. There is no world separate from Brahman. Birth, old age and death do not truly exist. Pleasure and pain also do not exist, only pure Brahman remains. Knowing Vishnu as free from worldly manifestation, desireless, without disturbance, pure and formless, the wise do not grieve. Just as a picture painted on cloth is not separate from the cloth, so the universe existing in the self is not separate from the self. The sense of difference created by the impurity of Maya should be removed through the purity of knowledge. Brahma, Vishnu, Siva, Sakti, the individual soul, Ganesha, the sun, the gods, and even the life force, all are creations of Maya. Without clouds, there is no rain. Without earth, there is no farming. Likewise, without Maya there is no creation, just as curd cannot exist without milk. As long as a person does not realize the self as eternal and unborn, the fear of birth remains. People waste their time in dry logical arguments. who besides the Lord can save the self from the serpent of time? Through spiritual contemplation, association with the wise, and knowledge, the wise seeker of liberation should strive to realize the self. Without inquiry, O goddess, the world appearance does not vanish. Therefore, inquiry must be undertaken to realize the self. This knowledge is the supreme teaching of the Vedas, declared for the removal of suffering. Through it, the accumulated karma is destroyed. Thus ends Chapter 3, Adhyatma Yoga. Chapter 4, Bhakti Yoga, Path of Devotion. Not fully satisfied with the teaching of Manikantha, the forest-dwelling woman again worshipped him and asked another question. Sabari said, O lotus-eyed Ayyappa, best among speakers, how are the peace of actions, peace of mind and destruction of desires attained? Sri Ayyappa said, O beautiful one, these are attained through devotion, knowledge, detachment, inquiry, or through service to the Guru. Worship of God, whether with attributes or without attributes, is called devotion. Listening to His glories, singing them, worship, serving His feet, bowing, remembering Him, friendship with Him, and self-surrender, these are the forms of devotion. 9 forms of devotion are described in the path with attributes, and 7 in the higher path. All are beneficial and should be practiced. He who has supreme devotion to God and the same devotion to the Guru, unto that great soul the teachings become revealed. From a seed comes a tree, and from the tree again the seed. Similarly, devotion produces knowledge, and knowledge again strengthens devotion. Association with saints is the seed of the tree of devotion. Great souls move about the world, like clouds in the sky, showering devotion, knowledge and detachment upon the earth. Like a tree that offers shade, flowers and fruits, saints serve those who seek refuge, and enrich them with devotion and knowledge. Ordinary people think in terms of good and bad. But a saint sees all beings as his own. Just as the sun dispels darkness with its light, so a saint removes the darkness in the heart through gentle speech. Birth is suffering, old age is suffering, and association with the wicked is suffering. But worship of Siva brings no suffering. Worship my devotee, who is compassionate and righteous and teaches the scriptures of devotion. The association of saints is the greatest pilgrimage. The words of the Vedas are also sacred pilgrimage places. One should worship the Brahmin with food, clothing and water. Through his grace, one crosses the ocean of worldly existence. Just as night does not end without sunrise, so ego does not vanish without the rise of devotion. One should love all beings as oneself. Through such pure feeling one crosses the ocean of existence. Seeing the whole universe as my form, worship me with leaves, flowers and fruits, keeping your mind fixed on me. Thus ends Chapter 4, Bhakti Yoga. Chapter 5, Jnana Vijnana Yoga, Knowledge and Realization. Sri Ayyappa said, knowledge is of 2 kinds, indirect and direct. Both Vedic and worldly knowledge also fall into these 2 types. In the Vedas, knowledge is mostly indirect, inference and reasoning are worldly. Direct knowledge is found in the great statements, Mahavakyas. Direct knowledge may be firm or unsteady. Firm direct knowledge leads to liberation. Knowing Brahman exists is indirect knowledge. Knowing I am the indivisible bliss, I am Siva, is direct knowledge. Even in non-duality, difference between the individual soul and the Supreme seems to appear, like the difference between ice and water. This difference is created by Maya, which appears as knowledge and ignorance. For one without surrender, Maya is difficult to overcome. For the devoted one who has surrendered, Maya stays far away. Nothing in the world purifies like knowledge. It arises spontaneously in the heart of one perfected in yoga. Seeing unity is knowledge. Seeing difference is ignorance. The first leads to liberation, the second to birth and death. Just as milk from cows of different colors is the same, so knowledge sees unity, while ignorance sees distinctions. Through the Vedas and long service to the Guru, one realizes the self, which is actionless, free from desires and beyond the threefold distinctions. What does not exist in the beginning and does not exist in the end cannot truly exist in the middle, like a snake imagined in a rope. Through the distinction of heat and cold, the world appears diverse, but through knowledge it shines as the inner self. Pure consciousness appears as the consciousness of God, the consciousness of the individual, the knower, the means of knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the result. These 7 distinctions appear in consciousness in practical life, though not in reality. Sabari said, "O Lord who knows all the Vedas, explain how these 7 distinctions appear in the eternal self." Sri Ayyappa said, "Consciousness free from the limitation of Maya is called pure. With Maya it becomes God, with ignorance it becomes the individual soul. Consciousness associated with the mind becomes the knower. Associated with mental modifications, it becomes the instrument of knowledge. Unknown consciousness is called the object of knowledge. When known, it becomes the fruit of knowledge." Thus, 7-fold distinctions appear in consciousness through worldly dealings, though all is truly one in Brahman. Thus ends Chapter 5, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Chapter 6, Vairagya Yoga, Detachment. Sri Ayyappa said, "Detachment is the mastery over desires for objects seen or heard about. Detachment is like a boat to cross the ocean of worldly existence. Worldly pleasures inevitably depart even after long enjoyment. If one abandons them willingly, they bring infinite peace." After enjoying heavenly pleasures for a long time, King Aila declared verses of detachment. "What is the use of knowledge, austerity, renunciation, scriptures, or solitude, if a man's mind is captured by women? Shame upon me, who thinks himself wise yet remains controlled like an animal by sensual desire. Detachment born of Siva's grace brings great peace and happiness." Through intense detachment, the great yogi attains the supreme state of samadhi. When samadhi arises, the moon of the self rises and showers nectar like the moon over the ocean. For the self there are no parents, children, or relatives. Gods and humans fall into the pit of worldly pleasures in vain. Lust, anger, pride, and greed enter the city of the body and steal the jewel of knowledge. Who is whose mother, father, or wife? If there were no birth, how could such relations exist? The deer, elephant, moth, and fish perish because of attachment to one sense object each. Humans, attached to all sense objects, still continue to live. This is indeed astonishing. The human body was not born for trivial acts but for austerity, and for attaining eternal happiness. Without detachment, people seek happiness in devotion just like trying to bathe in a mirage. One becomes a true renunciant only by abandoning attachment to women and gold. A donkey wrapped in tiger skin does not become a tiger. Giving up gold, clothing, wealth, or armies is not the real renunciation. True renunciation is abandoning attachment to beautiful young women. Thus ends Chapter 6, Vairagya Yoga of Srimad Ayyappa Gita. Chapter 7, Vikara Yoga, Path of Inquiry. Sri Ayyappa said, "Who am I? How did this universe arise? Who is its creator? What is its material cause?" Such inquiry should be undertaken. Through discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal arises firm knowledge. I am the Self, whose nature is eternal consciousness, beyond Prakriti. Prakriti, also called the primordial principle, is Maya endowed with the 3 qualities. As knowledge and ignorance, it pervades the universe as the cosmic mother. Prakriti and its modifications become the 5 subtle elements, Tanmatras. The ego, Ahankara, and the great principle, Mahat, arise from the unmodified root nature. From the great principle arises ego, from ego the 5 subtle elements arise. From these emerge the gross elements such as space, forming the universe. There are 10 organs of perception and action, and the mind as the 11th. These 16 are called modifications. Beyond them is the Purusa. Know Maya as Prakriti, and the wielder of Maya as the great Lord Maheswara. Through his powers, the entire universe is pervaded. Just as a spider is the cause of its web, so the Supreme Lord is the cause of the universe, both material and efficient. Untouched by affliction, action, or their results is the Lord. In yoga, he is called the Supreme Person. The Lord dwells in the hearts of all beings and inspires their actions, both prescribed and prohibited. Brahman alone is non-dual, beyond the reach of the senses, without attributes or form, thus declared in the Vedanta. That is Vishnu, that is Siva, that indeed is the sun and the moon. That eternal truth is I, and it is also you. Just as reflection and reflected image are imagined in the sun, so individuality and lordship are imagined in Brahman. At the gate of liberation there are 4 guardians: tranquility, sama, inquiry, vikara, contentment, santosa, and association with saints. Without inquiry, O goddess, there is no easier path for one seeking realization of the self. This entire universe appears in the self, like a snake imagined in a rope, or ornaments imagined in gold. Just as melted metal does not return to its previous form, so duality destroyed by non-dual knowledge does not return. Brahman alone is real, the world is illusory, born of Maya without beginning. Through right inquiry, the wise realize the self as that truth. Thus ends Chapter 7, Vikara Yoga. Chapter 8, Nirmama Yoga, Freedom from Possessiveness. To hear the Ayyappa Gita, sages such as Narada came to the Sahya mountain with humility and flowers in their hands. Greeting one another respectfully, they took refuge in Ayyappa to understand bondage and liberation. Sabari bowed and said, "This young woman, my friend, devoted to service and devotion, is grieving for her husband. O teacher of the 3 worlds, sprinkle her with the nectar of instruction. I see no other way to remove her sorrow and delusion." Sri Ayyappa said, "Why do you weep, O beautiful one? Where has your husband gone? If husbandhood belongs to the body is inert. If husbandhood belongs to consciousness, then you yourself are that consciousness. How can there be separation? Whose mother, whose father, whose wife? Without birth, how can these relationships exist? Abandon all sorrow and take refuge in me alone. I will deliver you from all grief. Death belongs to nature, and life is only its modification. Even breathing for a moment is the result of great fortune. Therefore worship the peaceful, unmanifest, imperishable self free from fear and sorrow. Those who know the essence of reality do not grieve for the dead, nor for the living. Grief, delusion, old age, disease, lust, anger and attachment belong to the body, not to the self. Know that worldly pleasure is truly suffering. In union it seems nectar, but in separation it becomes poison. Poison kills only the one who consumes it. Sense objects destroy even the one who merely sees or experiences them. Those who identify the self with the body obtain birth and death. Those who identify the self with Brahman attain the eternal state. Meditate on the self as pure consciousness and supreme bliss, without beginning or end. By the teaching of Dharmasastha Sabari, as friend became free from sorrow and delusion. Thus ends Chapter 8, Nirmama Yoga. Chapter 9, Mantra Yoga. Sabari said, "O Lord, which among all mantras leads to the highest good?" Sri Ayyappa said, "The Hamsa mantra is the great mantra. It is called the mantra of life breath. The world is vast like a forest, filled with the beasts of birth, death, old age and disease. One who realizes the pure Brahman through knowledge is called a Hamsa by the wise." Reversed, the mantra becomes Soham, the son of the Upanishadic teaching of non-duality. The Hamsa mantra becomes supreme when the syllables Ha and Sa merge into unity. In the ocean of worldly existence, the soul repeats this mantra 21,600 times daily through breathing. With Ha the breath goes out, with Sa it enters again. Thus the mantra Hamsa is repeated continuously. Om is the bow, the self is the arrow, and Brahman is the target. With careful attention one should strike it and become one with it. Know Om as the Lord dwelling in the hearts of all. Whoever chants Om 12,000 times daily realizes the Supreme within 12 months. The meaning of Om is Siva, I am also Vishnu in that form. This syllable alone is Brahman and the Supreme. Knowing me as the Lord of Om, one becomes freed from all sins. Through Om the sorrows of birth, old age and suffering vanish. In the Vedas I remain as the single sacred syllable granting all accomplishments. Right conduct is the first principle of religion. For one who is purified by right conduct, mantra siddhi arises quickly. Thus ends Chapter 9, Mantra Yoga. Chapter 10, Dharma Yoga. Sabari said, "What is the universal dharma that destroys bondage?" Sri Ayyappa said, "That which brings both ultimate liberation and worldly welfare is dharma. Equanimity in pleasure and pain and control of the senses is called self-discipline. Forgiveness is enduring injury even when capable of retaliation. One should not steal nor speak harmful words, and should remember the Lord's feet. purity of body and mind is called cleanliness. Restrain the senses from wrongdoing and guide them toward righteousness. Shamelessness brings disgrace. Therefore modesty is praised. The 4 Vedas and other sciences form the 14 branches of knowledge. Scripture alone should guide the discernment of right and wrong. Truth means speaking what is correct and beneficial, like King Harishchandra. Anger and hatred are great sins leading to hell. Anger causes mental suffering and bondage, therefore abandon anger. Whenever righteousness declines, I arise to restore dharma. Whether desireless or self-fulfilled, one should worship me, the protector of dharma. One should honor parents, teachers, guests and cows. Abandon evil actions and perform righteous ones. Serve saints with equanimity. Through that lust and anger are subdued. Service is the highest duty. Through service even the 3 worlds can be conquered. Where dharma exists, I am present. Where I am, the gods reside. Thus ends Chapter 10, Dharma Yoga. Chapter 11, Karma Yoga. Sabari said, what actions are considered good and what actions bad? Sri Ayyappa said, actions done without desire are good, those done with desire are considered inferior. Creatures are bound by action and liberated by knowledge. Immortality is attained not by action but by renunciation. Vedic rituals often prescribe actions for attaining heaven. However, heavenly pleasures are temporary and filled with fear. A wise person should not disturb those attached to action, but guide them gently. Laziness is the great enemy within the human body. Abandon ego and perform actions for the welfare of the world. I have incarnated to protect the Vedas and instruct beings. My sight destroys sins, poisons, diseases and evil tendencies. Taking refuge in me grants the 4 goals of life. Those attached to action worship Sakti. Those attached to knowledge worship the Guru. Seekers of liberation worship Siva. Those attached to everything worship me. Actions performed without desire for fruits are truly auspicious. Thus ends Chapter 11, Karma Yoga. Chapter 12, Guna Yoga. Sri Ayyappa said, one who is free from hatred, virtuous, practicing celibacy, devoted to chanting my name and serving the Guru, attains the supreme state, the formless consciousness beyond qualities. With detachment, breath control, non-violence, and self-discipline one becomes purified. After many births of merit, one strives through inquiry and meditation to realize the self. The mark of my devotee is helping all beings with humility in thought, word and deed. Desire is the greatest enemy. Through devotion it can be conquered. Once desire is conquered, anger and other faults disappear. Through celibacy and austerity even the gods conquered death. Charity sustains life, but giving food is the greatest charity. The self is without qualities and changeless. The universe is formed of the 3 gunas. One who transcends the gunas becomes peaceful. Even a learned scholar is ignorant if he does not know the self. From sattva arises knowledge, from rajas greed, and from tamas delusion. When one sees that the gunas alone act and the self is only the witness, he attains Brahman. Ideas like I act, I enjoy, and I suffer arise only because of the gunas. Thus ends Chapter 12, Guna Yoga of Srimad Ayyappa Gita. Chapter 13, Brahma Darsana Yoga, Vision of Brahman. Sri Ayyappa said, just as within the seed of a tree the great tree exists in potential, so within Brahman exist all beings that move on earth and in the sky. Within the seed there exists a very subtle power. Likewise within Brahman resides Maya in an indescribable state. That power is not separate from the seed, though it appears so without inquiry. Similarly Maya appears separate, yet it is not apart from Brahman. From the tree come branches, then leaves, flowers and fruits. Likewise arise Hiranyagarbha, Sutratman, Iswara, the individual soul, and the cosmic form. Just as the shadow beneath a tree changes with the wind, so pleasure and pain in the world change through actions, karma. Brahman is the seed, and the universe is the tree produced by Maya. By inquiring into this seed I realize myself as the complete Supreme Person. Without water a tree cannot live. Without ayyappa beings cannot live in the 3 worlds. Hunger, thirst, pleasure and pain belong to the mind, not to the body or to the self. A crystal appears red when near a red flower. Similarly, the self appears to experience pleasure and pain due to association with the body. With the axe of holy company and the tool of inquiry, cut down the great tree of ignorance and attain liberation. If one holds the sword of detachment, what can worldly life do? But if attachment exists in the heart, what can the scriptures accomplish? For the devotee free from attachment and aversion, the teachings of the Vedas become fruitful. The yogi constantly repeats the single syllable Om and meditates on its meaning in the heart, attaining the highest state at death. The sacrifice of mantra recitation is great, the sacrifice of knowledge is greater still. Ritual sacrifices give only heavenly results. Through knowledge, spiritual suffering, physical suffering, and divine afflictions are destroyed at the root. Listening to teachings, reflecting upon them, and deep meditation are the means for seekers of liberation. Having bathed in the sacred waters of the Guru's grace and marked with detachment, the seeker takes the bow of inquiry and destroys the thief of ignorance. By this path, the seeker attains fulfillment, becoming gentle, harmless, and devoted to the welfare of all beings. Chapter 14, Division of Divine and Demonic Qualities. Sri Ayyappa said, Charity, self-control, non-violence, austerity, truthfulness, absence of slander, renunciation, compassion, freedom from greed, patience, absence of anger, humility, purity, straightforwardness, fearlessness, sacrifice, and steadfastness in knowledge. Study of sacred texts, purity of mind, forgiveness, courage and firmness. These are such divine nature arises in a virtuous person after many births of austerity. Pride, arrogance, ignorance, anger, harsh speech, disbelief in God, attachment to pleasures, delight in acquiring wealth unjustly, hostility to the good, hatred between devotees of Vishnu and Shiva, quarrelsomeness, attachment to women and gold, deceit, and turning away from spiritual truth. These are signs of the demonic nature, which leads to fear and bondage. Without righteous conduct one cannot perceive the Lord. Dharma is the mother and father, it is the boat across the ocean of worldly life. Fear lies not in death but in abandoning righteousness. Abandon the demonic nature and adopt the divine nature. Just as the moon is reflected in clear water, so the self is seen in a pure mind. Jewelry is useless without clothing, and eloquent speech is useless without realization of the self. The words of a teacher who has realized the self become fruitful like a drop of rain falling into an oyster. Without contentment there is no happiness. Be satisfied with what comes naturally. The self is Rama, patience is Sita, anger is Ravana's city, the ocean is desire and greed, and Hanuman is contemplation of Brahman. Through service to the Lord and the Guru, a seeker quickly conquers lust, anger, and other faults. Chapter 15, Viswasa Yoga Faith. Sri Ayyappa said, Those who possess faith are qualified for the Vedic path and attain peace. The doubting person is most sinful and finds no happiness in this world or the next. Faith in the Guru and scriptures is sattvic. Faith seeking heavenly rewards is rajasic. Faith in spirits and similar beliefs is tamasic. Sacrifice, charity and austerity performed without faith are fruitless. Through faith one attains divine status. Faith is the eye through which the divine is seen. Without rain there is no harvest, without faith righteousness does not shine. Everything created by Maya contains defects, therefore place faith in the flawless Supreme Self. The wise delight in virtues while the foolish dwell on faults. Meditate with a calm mind on the imperishable and unmanifest Self. The mind alone is the cause of bondage and liberation. By abandoning sense objects and practicing meditation on Brahman, the restless mind becomes steady. Then the purified yogi perceives the divine witness. The subtle self is seen by a refined intellect. Among the four goals of life, liberation is supreme because it is eternal. With faith worship the deathless self, repeating, Soham, I am that. Chapter 16, Bhumika Yoga, Stages of Spiritual Development. Sri Ayyappa said, Just as a seed grows only in fertile soil, spiritual success requires the proper ground. Sabari asked, How many stages of spiritual development exist? Sri Ayyappa said, The 7 stages are Sabhecha desire for truth, Suvikarana, right inquiry, Tanumanasa, attenuation of the mind. Sattvapatti, establishment in purity. Asamsakti, non-attachment. Padartha bhavana, perception of unreality of objects. Turiyaga aski is the transcendent state granting liberation. These stages develop through scripture, association with saints, detachment, discipline and meditation. In the fifth stage the person becomes liberated while living. In the sixth stage the yogi remains inactive like a dry leaf moved by the wind. In the seventh stage duality disappears and the state of turiya arises. For the liberated one there is no birth and death. This knowledge leading to liberation should be given only to worthy seekers devoted to the Guru. Chapter 17, Saranagati Yoga, Surrender. Sri Ayyappa said, surrender has three stages. I belong to you. You belong to me. And I am you. Meditate within. I am pure, awakened, eternal, beyond Maya, the very form of Brahman. Rain is refuge for crops, water for fish, sacrifice for the gods. And I am the refuge for the distressed. I have taught you the essence of the Upanishads. Has your delusion vanished? Sabari said, I am satisfied by your nectar-like words. As a body I am your servant, as a soul I am your part, and as Brahman I am you. Sri Ayyappa said, one who abandons the essence of the Vedas chooses worthless things. Brahman can only be realized directly by oneself. Liberation is not in heaven or earth, but in a purified mind awakened by knowledge. Take refuge in the self, and you will soon attain supreme peace. Chapter 18, Ayyappa Darsana Yoga, Vision of Ayyappa. Sabari said. She describes the 18 sacred steps symbolizing the elements, senses, mind and intellect. These 18 principles lead to the realization of the eternal state. Ayyappa shines adorned in blue ornaments, dispelling darkness with the light of knowledge. Born of Siva and Mohini, he dwells on the sacred mountain Sabarigiri protecting devotees. He appeared as the son of King Pantala and performed divine deeds. Though capable of ruling a kingdom, he remained detached, knowing the world to be non-dual. Devotees praise him as the protector of righteousness and the embodiment of divine knowledge. Sri Ayyappa said, may this sacred dialogue spread everywhere and bring glory. Salutations to Ayyappa, who is both Vishnu and Siva, the radiant eternal Brahmacharin. Thus ends chapter 18, Ayyappa Darsana Yoga of Srimad Ayyappa Gita. Saranam Ayyappa,